The elevator climbed toward the 40th floor, and Emma's reflection stared back at her from the polished doors. Dark circles under her eyes. Thrift store dress. Hands shaking around the cream-colored card that promised an escape from drowning. The doors opened to white marble and chrome. Everything gleamed with the kind of money Emma had only seen in magazines. Then she saw him. Julian Westbrook sat at the head of a conference table. Sharp features carved from stone, dark hair falling just so across his forehead. When his gray eyes lifted to meet hers, the air shifted. Thickened. "Miss Clark." His voice was deep, controlled. "Thank you for coming." Emma sat, suddenly aware of her worn ballet flats against his tailored black suit. "I'll be direct," Julian said. "I need a child within 12 months. My family's trust requires an heir by my 35th birthday, or control of my company passes to my cousin. I'm offering you $8 million to carry and deliver a healthy baby." The number hit her like a fist. $8 million. Every debt erased. Every sleepless night ended. But the cost was a child. A stranger's child? Then giving it away? Why me? Julian leaned back, studying her with eyes that felt like they could see through skin. "You worked 3 jobs to pay your father's medical bills even after he died. You volunteer teaching art therapy to sick children. Everyone we spoke to called you kind, responsible, creative. Those are qualities I want." Emma's throat tightened. Her father's illness had consumed everything. Her dreams, her art school plans, her gallery hopes. "This is insane," she whispered. "Desperate times," Julian said, "require unconventional solutions. And the child? What about creating a human being through a business transaction?" Something flickered in his expression. The first crack. The child will have every advantage. The best education, opportunities, security, and a father who wants them. Emma stood, walked to the windows. Below, the city sprawled like scattered diamonds. Somewhere down there was her tiny apartment. Her unpaid bills. Her unfinished paintings gathering dust. "I need time. 48 hours. Julian's voice followed her. "After that, I move on." She turned. Up close, she noticed details. A faint scar above his eyebrow, the tension in his jaw, cologne that smelled like cedar and something crisp. "If I accept, what would this look like?" Julian stepped closer. "You'd move into my home immediately. We'd begin conception through natural means. It has the highest success rate. During pregnancy, complete freedom to pursue your interests. After birth, you receive payment and are free to go. Or we arrange visitation." Heat flooded Emma's cheeks. "Natural means. You mean physically together?" "Yes." The idea of being intimate with this beautiful, cold stranger seemed impossible. "Need to go." Julian pulled out a business card. "My private number. Call when you decide." 2 days later, Emma sat, surrounded by bills and half-finished canvases. She'd researched him obsessively. Billionaire, CEO, philanthropist, and one buried article from 8 years ago about a fiancée named Catherine who died 2 months before their wedding. After that, nothing personal in his life. Only business. Emma picked up her phone. "I'll do it," she said when he answered. "I accept." A pause. Then softer than before. "Thank you." 3 days later, Emma stood in Julian's penthouse foyer. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Central Park. Everything was perfect, elegant, impersonal. Julian appeared in dark jeans and a gray sweater. "Welcome. Let me show you your room." The bedroom suite was larger than her entire apartment. Massive bed. Marble bathroom. Another wall of windows. "There's an art studio on the 3rd floor," Julian added. "I had it set up for you. I thought you might want space to paint." Emma's breath caught. "You did that for me?" "The contract's for a year minimum. You should be comfortable." Something in her chest loosened. Maybe there was kindness beneath the ice. At 7, they sat at opposite ends of a long dining table. The silence was heavy until Julian spoke. "Tell me about your art." Emma looked up, surprised. "Abstract pieces. Emotions translated into color and movement. After this year, You'll have freedom to paint full-time, but I can still create, Emma said quietly. After giving away a child, Julian's jaw tightened. You're doing this by choice. No one's forcing you. No. But that doesn't make it simple. Nothing worthwhile ever is. Later, alone in her room, Emma stared at the glittering city. Tomorrow, hormone tracking would begin. Soon, she'd be expected to be intimate with the enigmatic man downstairs. And somehow, she'd have to protect her heart from becoming attached to Julian or the child she'd carry for him. Emma caught her reflection in the bathroom mirror. Same dark hair, same green eyes, same freckles. But inside, everything had changed. Tomorrow would be the first real day of this strange new existence. And Emma had no idea. She was strong enough to survive it with her heart intact. 1 month in Julian's penthouse felt like living inside a dream. Emma couldn't quite believe was real. She woke in sheets softer than clouds. 8 meals prepared by a private chef. Spent afternoons in the art studio where natural light poured through massive windows and professional supplies lined the walls. Dr. Sarah Morrison visited twice weekly, monitoring Emma's cycle with kind efficiency. The examinations were clinical, but Emma still felt exposed, vulnerable. Her body being prepared for a specific purpose, Julian maintained careful distance those first weeks. They shared dinners 3 times a week. Learning each other through cautious conversation, Emma discovered Julian had taught himself to code at 12, that he preferred jazz, that he read philosophy before bed to quiet his restless mind. He learned Emma had dreamed of studying art in Paris, that she talked to her paintings while working. Do they talk back? Julian asked one evening, amusement flickering in his serious expression. Sometimes they tell me I'm doing it all wrong, Emma smiled. But I argue until we compromise. 4th week. Dr. Morrison announced Emma's fertile window would begin in 3 days. The news landed between them at dinner like a stone dropped in still water. Ripples of tension spread through their careful equilibrium. I want you to feel comfortable, Julian said that night, standing in the hallway outside their bedrooms. We can take our time. No pressure. Emma looked up at him. Hallway lighting cast shadows across his features. We have a timeline. 12 months isn't long. He stepped closer. Close enough for her to smell cedar? I don't want this to feel mechanical. You deserve better. Something warm unfurled in Emma's chest. Over weeks, she'd seen glimpses of the man behind the business persona. Julian remembered she liked coffee with cream, no sugar. Fresh flowers appeared in her studio weekly. He gave space when needed, but remained available when wanted. Thank you, she whispered. 3 nights later. It happened Emma had expected awkwardness, discomfort instead. Julian was patient, attentive, his touches gentle, helping her relax. He kissed her slowly, as if they had all the time in the world when their bodies finally came together. Emma felt something shift between them. This wasn't just a transaction anymore. Afterward, Julian held her, fingers tracing lazy patterns on her shoulder. Neither spoke, both lost in thoughts about what they'd shared, what it might mean. The weeks that followed brought them closer in unexpected ways. Julian began working from home more, setting up his laptop in the art studio while Emma painted. They fell into comfortable silence, occasionally sharing observations or jokes. Emma started sleeping in his bed some nights, not for conception purposes, but because being alone felt wrong after what they'd shared. 2 months in, Emma woke to nausea so intense she barely made it to the bathroom. Julian appeared moments later, pulling her hair back, placing a cool cloth on her neck. I'll call Dr. Morrison, he said softly. The pregnancy test was positive. Emma stared at the 2 pink lines, emotions warring inside her, relief, terror, and something else she couldn't name when she looked at Julian's face. He seemed almost vulnerable in that moment. Hopeful. We did it, he said quietly. Yeah, Emma's voice cracked. We did. As her pregnancy progressed, Julian became impossibly attentive. He attended every doctor's appointment, asking detailed questions. He researched pregnancy nutrition obsessively. When Emma mentioned craving mango at 2 a.m., A perfectly ripe one appeared on the kitchen counter by morning. "You don't have to do all this," Emma said one evening, as Julian massaged her swollen feet. "I want to." His gray eyes met hers. "You're carrying my child. The least I can do is make you comfortable." But it felt like more than duty. The way he looked at her, the way his hand lingered on her growing belly, the way he kissed her forehead before leaving for work, Emma was falling. She knew it. Felt it happening despite every warning she'd given herself. 5 months pregnant? Emma stood in her studio, painting while Julian worked on his laptop nearby. She was adding final touches to a piece when she felt it. A flutter. Then, a distinct kick. "Julian," she breathed. "The baby. I think it just kicked." He was beside her instantly. "Can I?" Emma guided his hand to the spot. They waited. Then, it happened again. A tiny push against his palm. Julian's expression transformed. Walls crumbling. Eyes bright with something that looked like wonder. "That's our baby," he whispered. "Our baby. Not his baby. Our baby." The words hung between them, heavy with implication. That night, Emma found Julian on the terrace, staring at the city lights. "I didn't think I could feel this way again," he said without turning. "After Catherine died, I locked everything down. Decided emotions were liabilities. But then you walked into that conference room, and something shifted." Emma's heart hammered. "Julian, what are you saying?" He turned, and the look in his eyes made her breath catch. "I'm saying the contract was supposed to be simple, clinical, but nothing about this feels simple anymore. Nothing about you feels clinical." He stepped closer. "I'm saying I look forward to coming home because you're there. That I check my phone constantly hoping for your texts. That watching you paint makes me feel things I thought I'd buried with Catherine." Emma's hand moved to her belly. "This wasn't supposed to happen." "I know." Julian cupped her face. "But it did. And I don't know what to do about it, because in 7 months, the contract says you can leave. Take the money and go. Build the life you wanted. And I'll have to let you, because that was the deal." Tears slipped down Emma's cheeks. "What if I don't want to go?" Hope flared in Julian's eyes, raw, desperate. "Emma, don't say that unless you mean it. Don't give me hope if you're going to take it away." I mean it. I think I've been falling for you since that first dinner when you asked about my art. Since you built me that studio. Since you held me that first night and made me feel like I mattered." Julian kissed her then. Deep and claiming and full of everything they'd been holding back. When they pulled apart, he pressed his forehead to hers. "We'll figure this out. Rewrite the contract. Build something real." Emma nodded, heart soaring. Maybe this could work. Maybe they could be a real family. But the next morning, everything shattered. Emma woke to Julian's voice raised in anger from his office downstairs. She crept to the hallway, listening. "I don't care what it costs, Marcus. Buy him out. I want him gone from the board by end of week." Pause, because he's questioning my judgment. Suggesting I'm unfit to lead because of personal complications. Yes, I'm aware Emma's presence has raised questions. That's exactly why the baby needs to be born before my birthday. Once I have an heir, they can't touch me. Emma's blood turned to ice. No, she doesn't need to know about the secondary clause. If the relationship doesn't work out after birth, the contract stands. She gets her money. I get my heir. Clean break. Another pause. I'm protecting my interests, Marcus. That's all this has ever been about. Emma backed away, hand over her mouth to stifle the sob climbing her throat. It was all a lie. The tenderness. The vulnerability. The confession last night about falling for her. All of it calculated to keep her compliant. To ensure she delivered a healthy baby without complications, she was still just a womb to him. A means to an end, and she'd been stupid enough to fall in love with him. Emma ran to her room. Throwing clothes into a suitcase with shaking hands, she had to leave. Had to get out before she shattered completely. She made it to the foyer when Julian appeared at the top of the stairs. "Emma, where are you going?" She couldn't look at him. Couldn't bear to see those gray eyes that had lied so convincingly. "I heard you," she said, voice breaking. "On the phone." "I heard everything." The color drained from Julian's face. Emma, let me explain. That conversation was about business, not about us. Not about what I feel for you, don't. Emma held up a hand. Don't lie anymore. I can't stand it. She grabbed her suitcases and headed for the door. Where will you go? Julian's voice cracked. Emma, please. The baby. Think about the baby. Emma turned, tears streaming. That's all you've ever thought about. The baby. The heir. The company. Never me. I was just the incubator you paid for. That's not true. Emma, I love you. The words should have meant everything. Instead, they felt like the cruelest lie of all. If you loved me, Emma whispered, you would have told me the truth. About all of it. The secondary clauses. The backup plans. The fact that last night's confession was just another manipulation to keep me cooperative. It wasn't manipulation. Emma, please, don't leave. We can fix this. But Emma was already walking out the door. Walking. Away from the man she'd fallen for. Walking. Away from the penthouse that had become home. Walking. Away from a future she'd let herself believe in. She made it too. The street before the sobs overtook her, and Julian stood in his doorway, watching her disappear into the city, realizing too late that he'd destroyed the only real thing he'd had in 8 years. Emma's friend Maya lived in a cramped Brooklyn apartment that smelled like incense and overpriced takeout. The couch pulled out into a lumpy bed where Emma spent 3 days crying until her eyes were swollen shut. You need to talk to him, Maya said on day 4, setting down chamomile tea Emma wouldn't drink, or at least to a lawyer. You're carrying his baby, Emma? There's a contract, I know. Emma's hand rested on her belly, now visibly rounded at 5 months. The baby kicked regularly, as if asking where Daddy went. The thought made her cry harder. Her phone had 37 missed calls from Julian. 15 voicemails she'd deleted without listening. 12 text messages that all said variations of "please let me explain." On day 5, Emma's phone rang with an unknown number. She answered without thinking, Miss Clark. A woman's smooth voice. My name is Victoria Westbrook. I'm Julian's cousin. I believe we need to talk. Ice flooded Emma's veins. How did you get this number? I have resources, and I have information you need to hear. Meet me at Cafe Rosetta in an hour. Come alone. The line went dead. Maya shook her head when Emma told her. This smells like a trap, probably. Emma grabbed her jacket anyway. But I need to know what I'm dealing with. Cafe Rosetta was upscale. The kind of place where a single coffee costs what Emma used to make in tips for an entire shift. Victoria Westbrook sat at a corner table, blonde and immaculate, in a white suit that probably cost more than a car. Emma, Victoria smiled, but it didn't reach her ice blue eyes. Thank you for coming. Please, sit. Emma sat, one hand protective over her belly. Victoria noticed. 5 months along, I'm told. Congratulations, though I suppose Julian should be the one celebrating. After all, you're about to hand him everything he's ever wanted. What do you want? Emma asked flatly. To warn you. Victoria leaned forward. Did Julian tell you what happens if he doesn't produce an heir by his 35th birthday? Control passes to you.
Correct.
Which means I've been watching this situation very carefully. And I've discovered some interesting things. Victoria slid a folder across the table. Like the fact that Julian's been in contact with 3 other potential surrogates. Backup plans, in case you backed out or miscarried.
My stomach turned.
I don't believe you. Page 3. Emails from his personal account, dated 2 weeks after you moved in. And page 7. Bank transfers to a fertility clinic for genetic material storage. He was hedging his bets, Emma. You were never special. Just convenient. Emma opened the folder with shaking hands. The documents looked legitimate. Dates, details, Julian's signature at the bottom of several forms. He played you, Victoria said softly, almost kindly. The studio. The tenderness. The confession of love. All calculated to ensure you stayed cooperative through delivery. Once the baby's born and he secures the trust, Do you really think he'll want to keep playing house with the help? Tears burned Emma's eyes. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm going to make you an offer. Victoria's smile sharpened. Leave now. Walk away from the pregnancy, the contract, everything. I'll pay you $10 million. $2 million more than Julian promised. You disappear, he loses his heir. Control passes to me, and you get to rebuild your life without being tied to a man who sees you as livestock. Emma's hand tightened on her belly. The baby kicked, strong and insistent. You're asking me to abandon my baby? You mean his baby? That's what the contract says, isn't it? You're the surrogate. He's the father. The baby was never yours to keep, Emma. He made sure of that. Emma stood on shaking legs. I need to think. You have 24 hours. Victoria pulled out a business card. After that, the offer expires, and you'll be left with exactly what Julian planned for you. 7 more months of use, then dismissal with a check and a non-disclosure agreement. Emma fled the cafe, folder clutched to her chest. That night, alone in Maya's apartment, Emma read through every document. Bank transfers, email chains, fertility clinic receipts. It all looked real. It all confirmed her worst fears. She was staring at Julian's signature on a clinic form when her phone rang. Julian? Again. This time she answered.
Oh, Ma.
His voice cracked with relief. Thank God. Where are you? Are you safe? Is the baby okay? The baby's fine. Emma's voice was hollow. No thanks to you. Emma, please. Let me come get you. Let me explain everything. That phone call you heard, it wasn't what you think. I met with Victoria today. Silence. Then low and dangerous. What did she tell you? The truth about the backup surrogates, the stored genetic material, the exit strategy you had planned from the beginning. Emma's voice broke. Was any of it real, Julian? Any of it. All of it was real. Emma, Victoria's playing you? She wants you to walk away so I lose the company. She's been trying to undermine me for years. These documents have your signature. What documents? Emma, please. Tell me what she showed you. Emma described them. With each detail, Julian's breathing grew heavier. Those are fake, he finally said. Or manipulated. Yes, I consulted other surrogates before choosing you. That's true. But the moment you agreed, there was no one else. No backup plan. No exit strategy beyond hoping you'd choose to stay after the birth. You're lying. You've been lying since the beginning. I've made mistakes. I kept things from you because I was scared. Scared of losing control. Scared of caring too much. But I never lied about my feelings. Emma, I love you. That was never part of any plan. Emma closed her eyes. I don't know what's real anymore. Then come home. Let me prove it. Let me show you the real documents. The real contracts. Let me prove Victoria's manipulating you. I can't. Emma's hand rested on her belly. I can't risk it. Can't risk her. Can't risk this baby being born into a war between you and Victoria? So what are you going to do? The question hung between them. Heavy with possibilities, heavy with consequences. I don't know, Emma whispered. I need time. Time's the one thing we don't have. My birthday is in 7 months. The baby's due in 4. Emma, if you walk away now, everything we've built means nothing. The contract becomes void. You'd have to give the baby up anyway with no money, no support, nothing. Maybe that's better than being a pawn in your corporate game. Julian's voice broke. You were never a pawn. You became everything. And I'm terrified I've lost you. Emma hung up. For 3 hours she sat in the dark, one hand on her belly, the other clutching Victoria's business card. 10 million to walk away. To end this nightmare? To never have to wonder if Julian's love was real or manufactured, but walking away meant terminating the pregnancy. Meant killing the baby she'd already started loving. The baby who kicked every time she heard Julian's voice, as if recognizing Daddy at midnight. Emma made her decision. She called a number she'd sworn she'd never use. Mr. Peterson, she said, when the lawyer answered. I need you to set up a meeting. Me, Julian, and Victoria. Tomorrow, I want everything on the table. All the contracts, all the documents, all the lies. And then, I'll decide who I believe. Miss Clark, I'm not sure that's wise given your condition and the stress. Tomorrow, Emma repeated, or I walk away and you all lose. She hung up before he could argue. The baby kicked hard, as if approving or protesting. Emma couldn't tell anymore. I hope I'm doing the right thing, she whispered to her belly. For both of us. But as she tried to sleep, all she could see was Julian's face. The way he'd looked at her on the terrace when he'd confessed his feelings. The wonder in his eyes when he'd felt the baby kick. Real or performance. Tomorrow, she'd find out. And tomorrow. Everything would either heal or break beyond repair. The meeting was set for noon at Peterson's office. Neutral ground. Emma arrived first, wearing the only dress that still fit over her growing belly. Maya came with her, sitting in the waiting area like a protective guard dog. Victoria arrived next, immaculate and smiling. Emma, so glad you came to your senses. Haven't decided anything yet. Then Julian walked in. Emma's breath caught. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes. Stubble on his jaw. His suit wrinkled, as if he'd slept in it. When his gray eyes met hers, the pain in them was so raw, it physically hurt to witness. Emma, he breathed. Sit down, Peterson said firmly. We have documents to review. For 2 hours, they went through everything. The original contract, the fertility clinic records, the emails Victoria had shown Emma, and slowly, the truth emerged. The documents Victoria had provided were real, but incomplete. Dates manipulated. Context removed. Yes, Julian had consulted other surrogates. But months before meeting Emma, before the contract was even drafted, yes, genetic material had been stored. But standard procedure recommended by the fertility clinic as insurance. Done before conception, had succeeded with Emma, yes. There was a secondary clause about clean breaks. But it was Emma's request, written into the contract to protect her rights to leave freely. Not Julian's exit strategy. Victoria had taken truth and twisted it into weaponized lies. You manipulated me, Emma said quietly, staring at Victoria. You used my fears against me. Victoria shrugged. I used available information. Not my fault you were already doubting him, because he gave me reason to doubt. Emma turned to Julian. You were on the phone talking about me like a business complication. About protecting your interests. About secondary clauses and clean breaks. Julian's jaw tightened. That conversation was with my board member Marcus, who's been pushing me to treat this situation more clinically. To keep distance. To remember it's a contract. I was explaining to him why I couldn't do that anymore. Why you'd stopped being a transaction and become everything. That's not what I heard. Because you heard half a conversation. Julian stood, moving toward her. Emma, I've handled this terribly. I know that. I kept walls up because I was scared. But the moment you walked into my life, those walls started crumbling. And yes, it terrified me. Yes, I tried to maintain control. But I never stopped caring. Never stopped falling for you. Emma's eyes filled with tears. How do I know that's true? Because I'm about to do something incredibly stupid. Julian turned to Peterson. Draw up a new contract. One that removes all custody clauses. If Emma wants to leave after the baby's born, she can. And she takes the baby with her. Full custody? No strings. Victoria shot to her feet. You can't do that. The trust requires you to have custody of an heir. Then I lose the company. Julian's eyes never left Emma's. I'd rather lose everything I've built than lose you. Than have you stay because you're contractually obligated instead of because you want to. Emma's heart hammered. Julian, you'd lose everything. Your life's work. Your father's legacy. None of it matters without you. He dropped to his knees in front of her, hands gently covering her belly. I love you, Emma. I love this baby. And if you need to leave to feel safe, to feel free, then I'll let you go. But please know that everything I felt, everything I said, it was all real. You were never just a contract to me." Tears streamed down Emma's face. The baby kicked against Julian's hands, hard and insistent. "She knows your voice," Emma whispered. "Every time you speak, she moves." The doctor confirmed it last week. "We're having a girl." Julian's eyes filled with wonder and tears. "A daughter." Emma covered his hands with hers. "I don't want to leave. I never did. But I was so scared. Scared this was all manipulation. Scared you'd take her from me the moment she was born. Scared I wasn't enough to make you choose me over the company. You're everything." Julian stood, pulling her into his arms. "You and our daughter are everything. The company, the trust, the inheritance, none of it compares. I choose you. I'll always choose you." Emma buried her face in his chest, breathing in cedar and safety and home. "Then I choose you too." Behind them, Victoria stood. "You're both fools. You just threw away $1 billion empire for sentiment." Julian looked at her over Emma's head. "No, I threw away a cage. And I'd do it again." Victoria left, fury radiating off her in waves. Peterson cleared his throat. "I'll draw up the new contracts. Congratulations, by the way. Both of you." Later, back at the penthouse, Emma stood in the nursery Julian had been secretly preparing. Soft yellows and whites. A crib with hand-carved details. Shelves waiting for books and toys. "When did you do this?" Emma breathed. "The day you left. I couldn't sleep. So I built..." Julian wrapped his arms around her from behind, hands resting on her belly. "I built a room for our daughter and prayed you'd come back to see it." Emma leaned into him. "I'm sorry I ran. Sorry I didn't trust you. I'm sorry I gave you reasons not to." He kissed her temple. "We're both learning. Both healing. Both figuring out how to build something real from something that started as a transaction." The baby kicked, strong and happy, and for the first time in weeks, Emma felt whole. 3 months later, Emma was 9 months pregnant and glowing. Julian had been right. Choosing each other over the contract had freed something in both of them. They stopped tiptoeing, started planning, painted the nursery together, argued about baby names, and fell asleep each night with Julian's hand on Emma's belly. Talking to their daughter, they'd decided on Lily Rose Westbrook. Emma stood in the nursery one evening, folding tiny clothes, when Julian came in holding his phone. His face was pale. "What's wrong?" Victoria filed an injunction. "She's claiming I'm mentally unfit to run the company. Says the contract violation proves impaired judgment. The board's calling an emergency meeting tomorrow." Emma's heart sank. "Can she do that?" "She's trying. If she gets 3 board members on her side, they can vote me out. Force a psychiatric evaluation. Delay the trust transfer indefinitely." Julian ran his hand through his hair. "Even if I fight it, the legal battle could take years. But we have the baby. We have Lily. The trust required custody, Emma. Remember? We changed the contract. Now Victoria's using that change to prove I'm unfit, claiming I gave away my leverage for emotional reasons, which shows compromised decision-making." Emma sat heavily in the rocking chair. "So what do we do?" Julian knelt in front of her, taking her hands. "We have one option. We reinstate the original custody clause. Show the board it was a temporary amendment, that I still maintain control and authority. That means giving you full custody again. Means I could lose her. You won't. It's just paperwork, Emma. Just optics to satisfy the board. Nothing between us changes." But Emma saw the fear in his eyes. The same fear that kept her awake some nights. What if he changed his mind? What if having sole custody made it easier to push her out later? "I need to think," she said. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. The baby pressed against her ribs, restless and uncomfortable. Emma rubbed her belly, whispering promises she wasn't sure she could keep. At 3 a.m., she found Julian on the terrace, staring at the city. "I keep thinking about Catherine," he said quietly. "About how I lost her because I was too focused on work. Too busy building an empire to notice she needed me. And now I'm about to lose the company anyway, and I can't help but think maybe that's karma. Emma moved beside him. You're not losing anything. We'll figure this out. What if we don't? What if Victoria wins and takes everything? The company, the money, all of it. You'd be tied to a man with nothing, Emma. You could take Lily and leave. Build the life you wanted without the weight of all this. I don't want that life. Emma turned him to face her. I want this one. With you. With Lily, with all the complicated, messy parts. Julian cupped her face. Then we fight. Together. The board meeting was scheduled for 3 p.m. Emma insisted on going, despite Julian's protests. I'm part of this, she said firmly. Whatever happens affects our daughter. I should be there. They arrived at the Westbrook Technologies building. Okay. Emma waddling through the lobby with Julian's protective hand on her lower back. Every step was uncomfortable now. Lily had dropped low, pressing on nerves and bladder and everything else. The boardroom was intimidating. Long table. Leather chairs. 10 board members, Victoria at the far end, immaculate and smiling like a shark. Julian, she purred, and Emma. How domestic. Please, sit. Though perhaps we should have a nurse on standby given your condition. Emma lowered herself carefully into a chair, refusing to show weakness. The meeting began. Victoria presented her case. Contract violations. Impaired judgment. Emotional compromises that endangered company stability. She was persuasive. Emma watched 3 board members nodding along. Marcus, the man Julian had been on the phone with months ago, looked particularly swayed. Then Julian stood. My cousin is correct that I violated the original contract. She's correct that I made decisions based on emotion rather than pure business strategy. But she's wrong about the consequences. He pulled up a presentation on the screen. Financial projections. Market analyses. Growth reports. Since Emma came into my life, company revenue has increased 17%. Employee satisfaction is at an all-time high. We've secured 3 major contracts that competitors fought for. Why? Because I stopped treating business like warfare and started treating it like something worth building. Something worth caring about. Julian looked at Emma. I learned that from her. I learned that showing up as a whole person, not just a calculating machine, makes me a better leader. Not a compromised one. Victoria scoffed. Sentiment doesn't drive shareholder value. No, but vision does. Purpose does. And I have both now. Julian turned back to the board. Vote me out if you want. Hand control to someone who sees this company as nothing but numbers and leverage. But you'll be losing the person who built it from nothing, who fought for it, who cares about its future beyond quarterly reports. The room fell silent. Marcus spoke first. You gave up sole custody of your child? Your only heir. How do we know you won't make similar impulsive decisions with company assets? Because that wasn't impulsive. Julian's voice was steady. That was the most calculated decision I've ever made. I assessed what mattered most, weighed the risks, and chose the outcome that served the greatest good. That's not compromised judgment. That's evolved judgment. Emma's chest tightened with pride and love. Victoria stood. The trust requires an heir under your custody by your 35th birthday, which is in 2 weeks. You violated that requirement. The transfer should default to me. Actually, Peterson entered the room, carrying documents. There's been a development. He set papers in front of the board members. Miss Clark and Mr. Westbrook were married this morning in a private ceremony, which makes Emma legally Julian's wife. And under the trust's language, a child born to Julian and his spouse, regardless of custody arrangements, satisfies the heir requirement. Emma's head snapped toward Julian. We're married? Julian's eyes met hers. I signed the papers this morning. Peterson witnessed. I was going to surprise you after the meeting. Assuming you'd say yes, you married me without asking? Emma didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I secured our future without waiting for permission. Julian's smile was small, vulnerable. Was that the wrong move? Emma stood awkwardly, belly between them. You impossible. presumptuous, wonderful man. She kissed him, long and deep and full of everything she felt. The board members shifted uncomfortably. Victoria's face went white with fury. "This is fraud," she spat. "A marriage of convenience. It doesn't count." "The trust doesn't specify love matches," Peterson said calmly. "Just legal marriage. Which this is." Victoria slammed her hands on the table. "I'll challenge this. Take it to court." "Do it," Julian said. "Spend the next decade in litigation. Watch the company thrive without you. Because that's what will happen. The board knows it. You know it." He turned to the board members. "So let's vote. Keep me as CEO. Accept my marriage and forthcoming heir as satisfying the trust requirements. Or hand control to Victoria and watch everything we've built crumble while lawyers fight over semantics." One by one, the board members voted 8-2 in Julian's favor. Victoria stormed out, fury radiating off her like heat. Emma sagged against Julian, relief and exhaustion washing over her. "We did it," she whispered. "We did." Julian pressed his lips to her forehead. "And now we're married. How do you feel about that? Like you should have asked first." Emma smiled despite everything. "But like I would have said yes anyway." They started to leave the boardroom when Emma felt it. A sharp, tearing pain low in her belly, then wetness flooding down her legs. "My water just broke." Panic flashed across Julian's face. "The baby's coming. Now, Peterson, call Dr. Morrison. Tell her we're heading to the hospital." Everything became chaos. Julian half-carried Emma to the elevator. They made it to the car, Julian driving through Manhattan traffic like a man possessed while Emma breathed through contractions that came harder and faster. Too fast, Emma panted. "Julian, it's happening too fast." "I know, baby. Just hold on. We're almost there." They reached the hospital with minutes to spare. Dr. Morrison met them at the entrance with a wheelchair and a team of nurses. "She's crowning," the doctor said urgently. "We need to get her to delivery now." Emma barely remembered the next hour. Pain, pressure, Julian's hand in hers, his voice in her ear telling her she was strong, she was amazing. She could do this. And then a cry. High and indignant and perfect.
Ow.
"It's a girl," Dr. Morrison announced. "Healthy and beautiful." They placed Lily on Emma's chest, tiny and pink and squirming. Dark hair matted to her head. Eyes squeezed shut against the bright lights. Emma sobbed with joy and relief and overwhelming love. Julian leaned over them both, tears streaming down his face. "She's perfect. Emma, she's absolutely perfect." "She's ours," Emma whispered. Kissing Lily's forehead. "She's ours," Julian agreed. Later, when Emma was cleaned up and Lily was sleeping in her arms, Julian sat beside the bed, watching them with wonder. "I can't believe we almost lost this," he said quietly. "That we almost let Victoria destroy everything." "But we didn't." Emma reached for his hand. "We fought. We chose each other. And now we have her." Julian kissed Emma softly. "I love you. I know I didn't say it enough before, didn't show it right. But I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving it." "I love you too." Emma smiled. "Even though you've married me without asking? Would you have preferred a proposal?" "I would have preferred a choice." Julian pulled a small box from his pocket. Inside was a ring. Delicate platinum band with a single perfect diamond. "Emma Clark Westbrook," he said softly. "Will you marry me?" Again, officially, with full knowledge and consent this time. Emma laughed through tears. "Yes, absolutely yes." He slipped the ring on her finger. It fit perfectly as Emma held their daughter and looked at the man who'd started as a contract and become her everything. She felt complete. But outside the hospital room, shadows moved. Victoria stood in the hallway, phone to her ear. Voice low and venomous. "I don't care what it costs. Find me something. Anything they think they've won. But this isn't over. Not by a long shot." She hung up and walked away, heels clicking against the tile like the ticking of a bomb. 3 weeks after Lily's birth, Emma woke to Julian's side of the bed empty. She found him in the nursery, holding their daughter against his chest, swaying gently in the pre-dawn darkness. "Can't sleep?" Emma whispered. Julian looked up. Exhaustion lined his face. "Every time I close my eyes, I think about how close I came to losing you both. How my selfishness and control issues nearly destroyed everything." Emma moved beside him, wrapping her arms around them both. "But you didn't lose us. We're right here, for now. But Victoria's still out there, still plotting. I can feel it." He was right to worry. 2 days later, Peterson called with news that made Emma's blood run cold. Victoria filed a lawsuit claiming the marriage was fraudulent. She's also petitioned for a paternity test, suggesting Lily might not be Julian's biological child. Emma felt rage flood through her. That's insane. Of course she's his daughter. I know. But Victoria's claiming you had opportunities to be unfaithful, that the pregnancy timeline doesn't match. It's all fabricated, but the court is taking it seriously enough to order testing. Julian's face went hard as stone. "Fine, we'll take the test. Prove she's mine. End this." But that night, as Emma nursed Lily, doubt crept in. Not about paternity, that was certain, but about what would happen next. How many more battles would they have to fight? How many more times would Victoria try to tear apart their family? "We could leave," Emma said quietly. "Walk away from the company. Take Lily somewhere Victoria can't reach us." Julian sat beside her, watching their daughter nurse. "I thought about that. But running means she wins. Means she gets to destroy everything I built. Everything my father built before me." "Your father," Emma repeated. "Julian, you never talk about him. Why did he structure the trust this way? Why tie the company to having an heir?" Julian's expression darkened. Because he was a controlling bastard who wanted to ensure the Westbrook line continued no matter what. He didn't care about love or family. Just legacy. And Victoria? Where does she fit in all this? "She's my uncle's daughter. Grew up believing she deserved the company because her father was the eldest son. But my grandfather gave everything to my father instead. She's been bitter about it her whole life." Emma shifted Lily to her shoulder, gently patting her back. "So this isn't about business. It's personal. It's always been personal." Julian's voice was heavy with old pain. "Victoria and I grew up together. She was like a sister to me. Then Catherine died, and something in Victoria changed. She saw weakness, opportunity. She's been circling ever since, waiting for me to fail. She's not going to stop. No, she's not." The paternity test happened the next morning. A technician came to the penthouse, swabbed Lily's cheek and Julian's, and left with samples that would determine their legal future. The wait was excruciating. Emma tried to stay busy. Caring for Lily? Sketching in her studio? Pretending everything was fine? But she saw the tension in Julian's shoulders. The way he checked his phone constantly. The fear he tried to hide. On the third day, Peterson called Julian, put him on speaker. "What's the verdict?" 99.9% certainty. "Lily is your biological daughter? I've already filed the results with the court. Victoria's petition is dismissed." Relief flooded the room. Emma sagged against Julian, who wrapped his arms around her and Lily. "It's over," Emma breathed. "It's finally over." But Peterson's voice was grim. "Not quite. Victoria requested an emergency meeting with you both. Says she has information about Catherine's death. Information that changes everything." Julian went rigid. "Catherine. What does she have to do with this?" "She wouldn't say. But she claims if you don't meet with her, she'll release the information publicly." "Julian?" She sounded serious. "Whatever she has, it's big." They met Victoria in a private room at Peterson's office. Emma insisted on coming, leaving Lily with Maya despite Julian's protests. "If this concerns our family," Emma said firmly, "I need to be there." Victoria was already seated when they arrived. For once, she didn't look triumphant. She looked tired. Almost human. "Thank you for coming," she said quietly. Julian's voice was ice. "What do you want, Victoria? What lies are you selling now?" Not lies, truth. Victoria pulled out a folder, hands shaking slightly. 8 years ago, Catherine died in a car accident. You were told the brakes failed. Mechanical malfunction. I know how she died. Julian's pain was visceral. I lived through it. But you don't know why. Victoria opened the folder. The brakes were tampered with. Someone cut the lines. The Heir left the room. Emma reached for Julian's hand. What are you saying? I'm saying Catherine was murdered. Victoria's voice cracked. And I know who did it because I helped cover it up. Julian launched to his feet. What? My father? Victoria's eyes filled with tears. Your uncle. He found out Catherine was going to talk you out of taking over the company. She wanted you to sell it, use the money to start something smaller, something that wouldn't consume your entire life. My father couldn't allow that. The company was supposed to come to our family if you refused it, so he ensured you'd be too broken to do anything but bury yourself in work. Julian had gone completely still, face drained of color. You knew. His voice was deadly quiet. You knew for 8 years that Catherine was murdered, that your father killed her, and you said nothing. I was 22, terrified. My father told me if I spoke up, we'd both go to prison, that no one would believe me. So I stayed silent and hated myself every day since. Victoria pushed the folder across the table. This is everything. Mechanic reports showing the tampering. Text messages between my father and the man he hired. Bank transfers. All of it. Why now? Emma asked. Why confess now after 8 years? Victoria looked at them, really looked. Because I watched you two fight for each other. Watched you build something real from something transactional. And I realize I've spent 8 years destroying instead of building, hating instead of healing. My father died last year. The truth can't hurt him anymore. But it can maybe free you. Julian sank back into his chair, head in his hands. Catherine, God. Catherine. Emma moved behind him, hands on his shoulders. I'm so sorry. Julian, I'm so sorry. My father helped cover this up. Julian's voice broke. He knew? Victoria nodded. Your father and mine made a deal. Silence, in exchange for ensuring I'd never inherit. That's why the trust was structured the way it was. To punish me, to keep me close, but powerless. Julian looked up, tears streaming down his face. I grieved her thinking it was random. An accident. Senseless chance. But it was murder. Calculated, premeditated, and my family let it happen. What do you want to do? Julian stared at the folder. Evidence of 8 years of lies. Evidence that could destroy what remained of his family. Evidence that could finally bring justice for Catherine. I want to go to the police, he said quietly. I want Catherine to have justice, even if it means exposing everything. Even if it tears apart the Westbrook name. Victoria nodded. I know, that's why I brought it. I'm ready to confess everything. Face whatever consequences come. You'll go to prison, Peterson said. Accessory after the fact. Conspiracy. You're looking at serious time. I know. Victoria's smile was sad. But maybe that's what I deserve. Maybe that's the only way I can finally sleep at night. They went to the police that day. Emma held Julian's hand while he gave his statement. Watched him break down, describing Catherine's death. Saw him find strength in pursuing truth. Victoria confessed everything. Was arrested immediately. The case made headlines within hours. Westbrook family scandal. Murder conspiracy. Empire built on lies. The next weeks were brutal. Press camped outside the penthouse. Julian faced endless depositions. The company's stock plummeted as investors panicked. But through it all, Emma and Lily were there, anchoring Julian when he threatened to drown, reminding him why he'd chosen truth over comfortable lies. 1 month after Victoria's confession, Julian stood in the nursery watching Emma rock Lily to sleep. I'm selling the company, he said quietly. Emma looked up, surprised. What? I don't want it anymore. Don't want anything built on my father's sins and my uncle's crimes. I'm selling Westbrook Technologies. using the money to start something new, something clean. Julian, you don't have to do that. The company isn't responsible for what they did, but I am responsible for what I do with it. Julian knelt beside the rocking chair. I don't want to spend my life fighting for something tainted. I want to build something new with you. Something that makes Lily proud when she's old enough to understand. Emma's eyes filled with tears. What will you do? I don't know yet. Maybe philanthropy. Maybe tech that actually helps people instead of just generating profit. Maybe something we figure out together. He cupped Emma's face. All I know is I want a life that matters. Not just success that looks good on paper. Emma kissed him softly. Then that's what we'll build. 2 months later, Julian sold Westbrook Technologies for $3 billion. The money went into foundations supporting arts education, medical debt relief, and resources for struggling families. He kept enough for them to live comfortably, but not excessively. Not the way he'd lived before. They moved out of the penthouse into a brownstone in Brooklyn. Smaller, warmer, more like a home than a showcase. Emma opened a small art gallery where she taught classes and displayed emerging artists' work. Julian started a nonprofit developing technology for schools in underserved communities. They were happy. Really, genuinely happy. On Lily's first birthday, they threw a party in their backyard. Maya came. Dr. Morris and Peterson. Friends they'd made in their new neighborhood. Emma stood beside Julian, watching Lily smash cake into her hair and laugh with pure joy. Do you ever regret it? Emma asked. Giving up everything you've built? Julian pulled her close. I didn't give up everything. I gave up things that didn't matter, and I gained everything that does. He kissed her temple. You taught me that? The morning you walked into that conference room looking terrified and brave. You taught me that some things are worth more than money or power. That love, real love, requires sacrifice. Requires choosing people over profit. Emma leaned into him. We chose each other. We did. Best decision I ever made. They watched Lily, covered in frosting, reach for them both. Her first word had been mama, her second dada. Now she babbled constantly, telling stories only she understood. As the sun set over their small backyard, Emma felt peace settle over her. The journey from that conference room to this moment had been painful, complicated, full of mistakes and misunderstandings, but they'd made it through. Together. Building. Something real from something that started as a transaction. Later that night, after guests had gone and Lily was asleep, Julian and Emma stood in their bedroom. He pulled her close, forehead resting against hers. I love you, Emma Westbrook. More than I ever thought possible. More than I knew I could. Even though you still make terrible decisions sometimes. Like marrying you without asking? Like that. Though I forgive you, good because I plan to keep making decisions with you for the rest of our lives. They kissed. Soft and sweet and full of promise. Somewhere in the nursery, Lily stirred in her sleep. The daughter who'd brought them together. The miracle born from a contract that became so much more. And in that moment, Emma knew with absolute certainty that this was where she was meant to be. Not in a penthouse overlooking Manhattan. Not drowning in bills and broken dreams. But here. In this home. With this man. With their daughter sleeping peacefully down the hall. They'd started with a contract worth $8 million. They'd built something worth infinitely more. A family. A life. A love that had survived betrayal and sacrifice and every test thrown their way. And that was worth everything. The end.